When people call in, they're calling in a lot more educated and prepared. They know that we are within their means. And I think that that's a big game changer in terms of how much, just from the get-go, they're comfortable with us and they trust us.
You're listening to the Endless Customers Podcast, brought to you by the team at Impact. Endless Customers is the proven system to become the most known and trusted brand in your market. If you want to start to learn the principles of Endless Customers and how you can implement them in your business, pick up a copy of Endless Customers, a national bestseller wherever books are sold. Ready to start implementing Endless Customers in your business? Talk to Impact about how our coaching program can help you implement Endless Customers to success. And if you want to experience Endless Customers in person, do not miss our upcoming conference, Endless Customers Live, in Hartford, October 5th through the 7th, 2026. Registration is now open. And now, onto the show. Here's your host, Alex Winter.
Today's episode is about what happens when a pricing page stops being just a piece of website content and starts becoming a true growth asset. Because the best pricing pages don't just rank in search. Nope. They help buyers self-educate, improve lead quality, strengthen sales conversations, and even become high-performing landing pages for paid campaigns. Joining us today is Caitlin Vargas, the Director of Marketing at Equity Roofing, whose team has built a great example of exactly that. What makes this story so interesting is not just the development of the pricing page itself, but how it now works across both organic search and paid traffic to attract the right buyers and move them forward faster. In this conversation, we break down how the page evolved, what results they've seen, how paid and organic are now working together, and what other businesses can learn from turning pricing content into a true revenue driver. Caitlin, welcome to the show.
Hi, Alex. Thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here.
It's my pleasure. It's great to have you here. I'm really excited to be talking with you today. Before we get into the conversation and really get into the nitty gritty, can you just set the stage for our viewers and our listeners and tell everybody a little bit about yourself, your role, and Equity Roofing and what you guys do?
Absolutely. So I'm Caitlin Vargas. I am the marketing director for Equity Roofing, Equity Commercial Roofing, and our location of Equity Roofing in Indiana. The main location that we have is the Mifflinburg, PA location. That's where I work out of. We are a company that for Equity Roofing offers residential roofing services along with siding and gutters. And then our sister company, Equity Commercial Roofing, provides all of those same services, but for commercial.
Excellent. That's amazing. Well, thank you for sharing. And I want to get into, so we have a lot of ground to cover today. We have a lot to talk about. I'm really excited about this, but you guys are really breaking the mold as far as the roofing industry is concerned when it comes to talking about price and when it comes to a dedicated pricing page. And I feel like a lot of companies, we hear time and time again, they're afraid to put their price on. They don't want their competitors to know. They want to have their sales team talk to people and we're going to win them on the call. So what made you guys make the decision to want to put your pricing out there and to create this pricing page?
We were looking at it from the consumer point of view, so from the homeowner's point of view. It is really frustrating when you are trying to make a huge purchase like a roof and have no idea what kind of range you're even looking at. You can look online and it's going to tell you a million different things. You can try a pricing calculator, and unless you know what really goes into it, you don't really know how accurate that is. And it's not fair to people. Most people don't have an endless supply of money. They're working within budgets. They need to be able to have a range to work with. So that was really for us when we decided, okay, we really want to focus on being honest and transparent with our homeowners and making this process as easy as possible. That was something that we knew we had to figure out how to do for the pricing page.
Yeah, and was that something that you were hearing in the marketplace? Was that something that you guys had like an aha moment after learning about Endless Customers? Like, how did that come into play or like come into picture for you and the company?
Yeah, so Endless Customer was the one to kind of bring it to our attention. And then there was definitely that aha moment when they said it of, you know what? Yeah, when I'm looking for a service, I do want the prices. And when I can't find them or when they're locked behind an appointment, it is frustrating.
Yeah. So was this something that leadership was bought into, or was this your idea? Like, was this the marketing team's? Like, I'm just curious how it came to be. Like, what was it like before the pricing page, and then how did you get it implemented, and maybe paint the picture of like what it's like now after you have this awesome tool?
So leadership was totally on board. Alan was actually the one who had discovered Endless Customers before even bringing me on board.
Oh, wow.
So he knew from the get-go that this was the direction he wanted to go. I didn't have to push too far for it. The main thing was figuring out how to do it, because the pricing for roofing is kind of complicated, and it is one of the reasons why people don't list prices for roofs on a lot of websites, because it's hard to say without actually looking at the roof. So we did have to just figure out what the most honest way of providing the information would be, knowing that we weren't physically going out and looking at these roofs.
Gotcha. I have a note here that says that there's different versions, that it's like there's been like an evolution of this pricing page. So can you tell us a little about that? Like, how did it start, and was the first iteration like great, or did you realize that there were some things you had to tweak and fix and iterate on as you move forward?
So I would actually say the first iteration of it to exist was a blog. So we did a blog post of how much does your roof cost. That became the blueprint for our pricing page. So the blog, when it first started, it had tons of information, great information, relevant information, but it was a little bit hard to digest. So we ended up going through, we put some things under accordions just to help break up the information, make it all just a bit more visually digestible for everyone. Then when we decided to go to the pricing page, we tried to follow that same idea of, okay, we're giving people a lot of information. Let's break it up for them visually as much as possible. Now, at that time, we had just hired our first videographer, so we didn't have a lot of video content. So we had to rely completely on the written word, which was fine. It forced us to be very thorough and to keep visual design at the forefront of our minds. As we've developed more, we have made the information even more visually appetizing, so to speak. We've also included video in there, which just helps a lot of different audiences. Not everyone can digest information through the written word alone. Having a video alongside it really helps them to understand it, or, they might even play it while they're doing dishes because they are multitasking. So now our page has two videos. It has a video that talks about the price of your page, and it also has a video that discusses when you fill out our contact form, what happens and what to expect.
Yeah, that's awesome to hear. No, and it's so true. It's a really good point that you make, that some people digest information differently. Some people like to read, some people want to watch a video. So to have diverse content that's on the same page talking about the same thing, it gives people a chance to like meet them where they are so that they can consume it however they want to. And that's really a great way. The numbers go up exponentially when that happens. So I'm curious, I'm going to go off script a little bit here. Can we talk a little bit about your team? Because you have videographers on staff, which I love hearing. What is the content team? What does that look like? Do you have a content manager as well? And like, I'm curious, like if you could tell us a little bit about the team setup and what the team dynamic is like.
So I actually started as the content manager before I became the director of marketing. So right now I really fulfill both roles.
Okay.
And then my partner is my videographer, Gabe. And he does all of our video work for ads, for organic, for our website, anything that we need video for.
Very nice. So you're like the duo that just is getting stuff done and cranking. I love that. And that's something that when you read Endless Customers, the system, having a content manager, now director of marketing, and a videographer can be a really powerful matchup when it's done correctly. So kudos to you guys for doing it.
Thank you.
Yeah. Can we talk still? I want to go back to the pricing page. I got another question here. What kind of results have you been seeing since you implemented this pricing page? So it started as a blog, it's evolved into what it is today. What are you getting some good results? Are people using it? What's the traction been like for you and for the company?
Definitely good results. So this has served as a really strong entry point for our website, both the blog, which still exists, as well as the price point page. We see a lot of people finding it as their first introduction to our website. We find people are spending a good bit of time on there. And then when people call in, they're calling in a lot more educated and prepared for that price range. They're comfortable, essentially. They know that we are within their means. And I think that that's a big game changer in terms of how much, just from the get-go, they're comfortable with us and they trust us.
Trust. That's a big word. That's the key, is building trust. And I think this does a great job of doing that. And you guys clearly have. Have you adjusted the pricing page, or have you gotten feedback from people on the pricing page? And has that affected like how how you've iterated off of it or like what you've done with it going forward?
Yes. So it's really interesting. When we first made the numbers, we've always worked within ranges because, again, we want to be honest with people. And if we say that something's going to be $800 specifically, that may or may not be true depending on their situation. So we try to give a low and high range depending on various factors. When our first couple of iterations went up for our price page, we had salespeople come back to us and say, I think that price range is actually a little high, or I think that price range is actually a little low based on what I normally see. So we took their feedback into account and adjusted price ranges and then made sure in any educational portions where we talk about why these price ranges are the way that they are, that we include those little tidbits.
Yeah. No, that makes a ton of sense. And I think you have to take that feedback. It's so important. But I also like what you said. And I've heard, I don't know if you've been to our events, but I've heard Marcus say this quite a bit on stage. And for people out there watching and listening, maybe you have too. But people will be like, I can't give a price because if we give an exact price and then it's wrong, it's gonna break trust. And that is true, but you don't have to give an exact price. You can give a range and you can be like, hey, it's gonna fall within here and here. And we need to come to your house or do a site visit or meet to actually dial in what those numbers are. So it sounds like you guys are really doing that very well.
Yeah, and you can give them the tools to help determine what's closest to their range. So for roofing, for example, the tools that we give them is, hey, if you have this type of roof, you're probably going to fall in this range. Mm-hmm. If you have the square footage of a house, you're probably going to fall closer to this range. So you can give people the tools to help them determine along like what side of the range they're likely going to be on. And so long as that end quote falls within that range, they're more than likely going to be comfortable. They already have that number in mind. They always knew it was a possibility.
Yeah, no, that makes total sense. So I'm curious because you had mentioned this before where you're talking about your videographer and implementing video as well. So you clearly have the blog and the pricing page on your website for an organic piece, but I also have here that you do paid promotions as well. How do they work together, I guess, is the question. And then do you also direct paid pushes towards this pricing page? And like, what can you just paint that picture for us?
Yeah, we absolutely do. So depending on the ad, we have used the pricing page as a landing page, which in layman's terms means that when someone clicks on the ad, the page that they're actually going to isn't just our homepage, it's directly to that pricing page. So when it's relevant to the ad content, that is what we do. And we've found that it's very helpful and very successful. In addition, just with how we would use ads, our pricing page otherwise, we have actually used it to create static images as well. So we have what's called the cheat sheet ad that has done fairly well. And it's just a static image that basically took all of the information that we had on our price page and it condensed it into one single image that has just really quick price points as a homeowner cheat sheet of what your roof cost might look like.
That's cool. That's a really great idea. I'm sure people out there might be stealing that because I think I'm going to steal that too. That's just very clever. No, but to talk about building trust, it's like, here's the form. Here's what you're going to get. Here's a great way to like intrigue you. And then when you land on this page, it's the same thing. There's no fluff. There's no smoke and mirrors. It's just very straightforward. And I admire that.
Yeah,
so when we're talking about user journey, right? So people are coming either organically or through a paid push. Is the journey a little bit different, or have you thought through like somebody coming organically to this page versus somebody that's paid? Like, is there different results, or like what's that experience like for them, and are there different variables?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
So interestingly, we found that when people come in organically, they spend more time on the page. That doesn't mean that they tend to convert. In fact, they typically don't. When they find it organically, they're more intrigued by what the cost could be. And it seems to be something that they are keeping a pin in for the future. Versus when someone discovers it through paid advertisement. The way that paid advertisement works is it's a lot more targeted to someone who is performing research and interest already in a roof replacement. So they're a lot closer to being ready to actually proceed with scheduling an estimate and getting their project on our schedule.
Gotcha.
So typically with a paid advertisement, you'll see someone spend less time on the page because they know exactly what they are looking for, whether they want a repair or replacement or siding. And then they typically convert at that point.
Yeah. No, that makes a ton of sense. And it's true, you can't force people. So if they come organically, they're maybe just kind of dipping their toe in the proverbial water, trying to get a sense of the temperature, versus when you're retargeting, you're targeting specific people that are really looking for it. There's differences there. That makes total sense. Mm-hmm. So now that my wheels are spinning here, you got me thinking about, how does this play into the sales side of the equation? So for the sales team, how has this affected conversations with customers, and has the conversation shifted at all for the sales team, and what have you been hearing?
Yeah, so in general, because we've shifted a lot of our marketing focus to education, when homeowners are calling in, they're calling in a lot more confidently. They know the questions they want to ask. They already have an idea of what the price range for their project will likely be. So they're calling in asking really smart questions that are relevant to their project, which for sales is amazing. Having homeowners call in with an idea of what they need, not just this kind of vague notion of, I think I need a new roof. How much will it cost? And then getting frustrated that they don't get an immediate answer. It helps a lot just to have everyone on the same page.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm curious, but I'm sure that this has probably changed the conversations for the sales team too, as far as like people are more qualified. Because we talked about this at the beginning. I almost mentioned how salespeople sometimes think they can convert people. So it's like, don't give them the price. I'll get them on the phone. I'll meet them in person, and then I'll sell them, right? And it's this old adage, and sometimes you can do that, but also there's times there where you end up spending a lot of time with customers that aren't ready to buy, that aren't trusting your business, and it wastes more time than it actually helps. So I think shortening the sales cycle in this way and using this page is just really cool. I love hearing that.
Absolutely. And when homeowners do have a lot of questions about prices, we're able to direct them to either the price page or the blog and say, this is all of the information. Mm-hmm. So it condenses both the time that the salesperson is spending on the phone, because as much as we want to be able to answer every question, we also can't realistically spend an endless amount of time on the phone either. So this helps us provide all of the questions that they have in a very consistent and time efficient way.
Very cool. That's so cool. So we talked a lot about the pricing page. I want to take a step back and look at just your experience as the director of marketing now, starting as the content manager. You have buy-in from leadership that's really bought into Endless Customers and the system and implementing it. You have your videographer by your side. You guys are tag teaming all this great content and paid media. What's your experience been like working with Impact and having Endless Customers coach to help you implement the pricing page and implement all the things that you're doing, and just like help you along your entire journey here with Endless Customers?
It has honestly been really nice. So when I was first hired as a content marketing manager, I had been trained in a kind of a similar marketing tactic that was called 360 marketing. And so when they were telling me about Endless Customers, I thought, okay, yeah, this sounds along the lines of what I've already been trained in. This will be fine. I wasn't 100% sure of what to expect in terms of how much they would really be actively involved. And I have been so pleasantly surprised by the way that they've been involved. Not necessarily that they are hand-holding us, because they're not, and I appreciate that, but they are so good about setting guidelines and helping to organize the goalposts and organize the strategy, that it has been such an easy way to transition into their strategy. So overall, our coaches have just been amazing. It's been such a wonder to work with them.
That's great to hear. That's really great to hear. And how often are you meeting with your coaches? Is this a bi-weekly thing? Is this a monthly thing? Like, I'm just curious how that plays into like your day-to-day and how if it integrates with your team.
So that honestly does depend on the department and the team member. So when you first start off, you meet with them about weekly, and then as everyone's feeling confident in your ability, that slowly fades off. As a team, we meet quarterly and we go over, how are the quarterly goals going? Have we met our quarterly goals? Is the website on track for what we want? Are our sales on track for what we want? Whereas the videographer may meet closer to once a month with them to go over details about the videos. So it does depend on the role and what that specific person needs in terms of support and training. I believe even our videographer no longer has to meet with them once a month, because he's just really run with the training that he's had, and he's just knocking it out of the park. So they
That's
do
great.
kind of make sure to customize that to your needs.
Yeah, that's great. Accountability is a big piece. And then once you get it dialed in, which it sounds like you have certainly done that, it's pretty amazing what can happen. So I know we talked a little bit about results before, but I'm curious, do you have any numbers that you can share with us from like a data standpoint on like, hey, we were having about this many leads coming in before we really implemented this pricing page and endless customers, and now we're here, and maybe what the future looks like?
Yeah, so you can actually, some numbers for you. You can see from the price page specifically, our views have gone up about 56%. Our conversion rate has gone up to 1.9%, and our submission rate has gone up 58%. So that is since it was implemented 6 months ago. So it actually hasn't even been alive that long in the grand scheme of things, but we are seeing some really significant and positive growth.
Yeah, it sounds like it's almost doubling within 6 months. That's pretty impressive.
Mm-hmm.
Very nice. Well, congratulations on all your success. Last question, and this is one I ask on every show, and I love picking people's brains. I love hearing your story, real boots on the ground stuff happening here. But for our viewers and listeners that haven't heard about Endless Customers or don't really know the system or haven't read the book, what would you say to them about the system and also about implementing a pricing page and being honest about your content?
So the system is very focused on transparency and honesty, and I would argue ease of use. That's a really big push for endless customers is can someone very easily find the information that they need? That is so important right now.
Yeah.
People are working on very limited amounts of energy, both physically and mentally. At the end of the day or during their lunch break, when they're trying to find this information, they just need to be able to find it. They don't want to have to hunt for it. They don't want to have to think too hard about it. Their brains are already so tired from doing the million other tasks they have had to do throughout the day. And Endless Customers really understands this, and they go from that angle of what does the consumer need us to do? How can we make their job of choosing us easier?
Preach. I love it. And how about for a pricing page? People that are still going like, I don't know if I should put price on my website. I don't know if we should talk about price. What would you say to them?
Same thing of put yourself in the homeowner's shoes. Would it be frustrating for you if you were about to make thousands of dollars of a purchase? Nothing small. This is not a, $100 purchase. These are thousands of dollars that you're about to spend that you may even have to take a loan out for to spend. And you don't even get to know how much that is until you go and you meet with the person, and maybe the person you don't like, or you don't like the way that they're going to have it set up, or they're out of your price range. That would be so frustrating for you to have to go through these endless loops in order to just find out what kind of budget you get to work with. So that's really what it ends up being is if you are going to make it hard for them to find the information, if you're going to make it hard for them to decide if you're the right fit, they may pass by because they simply don't have the time and the energy to waste on that.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. That's such sound advice. You have to think like the buyer. You have to put their shoes on and walk in their shoes and really try to understand how to make the buying process seamless for them, to build trust, and to give them what they need so they don't have to have a headache, because there are a lot of headaches out there. We don't need any more added headaches, do we?
Yes, absolutely.
Well, Caitlin, this has been a really amazing conversation. It's been awesome talking with you. Thank you for sharing your story about the pricing page and everything that Equity Roofing is doing. You guys are crushing it, and I'm so happy for you guys.
Well, thank you. Thank you again for having me. It was really nice talking to you too. And I hope that, this podcast will help anyone who's kind of struggling or on the edge of, do I want to take this more transparent approach? Will it completely destroy me financially? It won't. It'll be fine. People will appreciate the transparency.
Well, thank you for the kind words. And again, congrats on all the success. I'll have you back on the show. We're going to check back in. I'd love to see a year from now or another 6 months from now where this pricing page will take you into the future. So we'll talk
Absolutely.
soon. Yeah, we'll talk soon. Thanks again for your time. And for everybody there watching and listening, this is Endless Customers. I'm your host, Alex Winter, and we will see you on the next episode.